get us underway. Hello, 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 and welcome to um, episode 90. Uh-oh, what episode is it? I don't know. Episode 95. Episode 95 of Building a U-Shaped Business with Georgie and Patty. Georgie's not here today, so I guess it's episode 95, Building a U-Shaped Business with Patty. That's our deal today. I'm going to begin the slideshow here and get us underway. All right. So this is Building a U-Shaped Business with Georgie and Patty, just Patty today. So we broadcast this thing live every Wednesday morning at 9:30 Pacific time. And this show is all about how to build a successful business based on your purpose, your values, and your personality. We try to share some interesting information, some helpful information, and some thoughts and maybe a little bit of entertainment. To help you be more successful in your business. Today's topic is something that Georgie actually talked about quite a bit last week. It's been on my mind recently, which is this idea of approaching marketing as a conversation, remembering that it's a conversation, and allowing those thoughts about it being a conversation to help us navigate what we need to do and how we do it, and to take some of the technical pressure off of it. This is probably the number one frustration that we hear about from our clients is this around technology. There's a lot of options for marketing technology. There are a lot of things that we can do. It's amazing. It's my background is actually in IT and computers. I was heavily into technology beginning back when years started with a one, and what we're able to do with computers and the internet and social media and connectivity and being able, like me right now, being able to broadcast live video to Facebook, to do interaction on Zoom, to chat with you, to create a recording. It's absolutely amazing what we're able to do. And the technology, strangely enough, is both getting easier to use. It's much more user-friendly than it used to be. And at the same time, because it's becoming more and more powerful, has more and more features, more and more things can be hooked up together. There's an additional level of complexity. Even this morning, as I'm putting together this little broadcast, I'm needing to, create the PowerPoint slide, bring it into Zoom, start the Zoom meeting, connect it up through Facebook, get the Facebook thing broadcasting. When I get the control panel for Facebook, it has a whole bunch of technology stuff on it, acronyms and choices, and ultimately all I needed to do was go with the default and say yes, and I'm assuming it's working. Georgie usually handles that part, but this is like a million times easier than it might have been a few years ago, and yet technology can be really frustrating, and it's so easy to get focused in on the technology. How do I get this piece of technology working with that piece? How do I choose? What webinar platform do I use? What email marketing list do I use? How do I set up my funnel? What do I do to deliver my online course? There's a ton of technology decisions, and because technology moves so fast, there's also new options that become available that we didn't even know existed. I'm seeing some really clever things come into my world. I got turned on to a couple of systems that I had no idea that existed, that actually solve legit problems that I'm experiencing, will make my life easier. And they're going to come with a learning curve, setting it up and getting it up and running. And one of the dangers dangers with focusing too much on the technology is we forget what we're actually trying to do. And in some cases, we're allowing the technology to try to kind of drive what we're doing rather than using the technology to actually accomplish what we want to accomplish. So I want us to kind of center in on this idea is that, we talk about this all the time. If you sell professional services, you're in a relationship business. Our show, um, what we talk about is all about that. It's about how do we help self-employed professional service providers who offer expertise, who offer services, insight, advice, coaching, healing, transformational kinds of services. How do we help those businesses be more successful? How do we approach marketing in these kinds of businesses? And it is so, when we start looking at technology, it is so important that we remember that this is a relationship business and that ultimately, successful marketing will put you in relationship with another human being. And it really will serve you well to remember that and to focus on that first and technology second. Um, and it's kind of keeping in mind that a lot of the advice that we get, especially around technology, is often comes from trying to sell things, trying to sell widgets, trying to sell information, trying to sell courses, trying to sell um, products and services that don't really have that one-to-one human relationship attached to them. And so sometimes what makes perfect sense for somebody selling an information product, for example, doesn't make sense if you're selling a coaching or consulting service. So to just kind of keep that in mind and keep it as a filter when you're thinking about how you're going to approach marketing, how you're going to approach technology. And this is the thing about marketing is that marketing is conversation. Um, really, effective marketing is conversation between you and your future client. And there's a lot involved in that conversation. And um, I find it really helpful to think about the conversation and to think about marketing. I've often said this: marketing is it runs on words. It's about words, and those words are in there to create a conversation. And when you think about the technology, it's simply there to carry that conversation. It's to facilitate that conversation. It's a way to have that conversation with multiple people, um, uh, to have a oh, my computer is doing something that I don't want it to do. See, I was talking about technology, and so my computer is going to freeze on me. All right, am I back? Was I gone? Like, no, thank you. No, I would rather not update right now. Thank you very much. So where are we talking about? Technology, getting in the way of the conversation, kind of like it just got in the way of this conversation. But really what we want from technology is to enable that conversation, to make it possible to have a conversation over time. That you can start a conversation, wait for the other person to respond, like kind of like email conversation, direct message conversation on social media. Um, uh, Creating content, getting comments and engagement. There's a back and forth. The technology allows that to happen. It allows multiple people to be involved. It's kind of cool and it's kind of groovy, but the technology's role there is to carry the conversation, not to drive it. Um, and so here are a few things to think about in terms of doing this, because sometimes we lose sight of this. And one thing that's really helpful is that when you're thinking about writing or speaking, hold in mind a single person. This is actually something I learned when I studied professional speaking, public speaking, talking to an audience is not to refer to the audience as all of you or everyone, and it's more of speaking to one person in the audience at once. It's like carrying on a conversation with one person, but there happens to be many people in the room. And this is something that you might notice when you listen to people who are doing presentations, that the ones who do this and do this well, um, it feels like there's more of a connection because you feel like they're speaking to you personally. So really good speakers do that. Um, and one of the things that people get a little uptight about in terms of broadcasting on broadcasting live, creating videos, writing articles, is that they're trying to speak to a whole bunch of people at once rather than focusing on one person. And when you think about that one person, I really would invite you to think about it as a specific human being. If you want to look at writing a blog post or an article, think about starting with an email. I mean, what would you say in an email if you were to open an email and send it to a specific client? So when you think about a client, like looking even at this photo that I have on the screen, somebody that's paying attention, somebody that's smiling, somebody that wants to hear from you, and to focus that information towards that one person. Rather than feeling like when you go out and post something on Facebook that there are like millions of people that are listening, because they're not. So it might feel that way, but it's not really true. So instead, write for those one, for that one person, and then be generous and share the information or the advice or the guidance or the inspiration or whatever it is you're sharing with one person. Be generous and share it in a way that other people can have that conversation as well. And when you do that, the technology becomes kind of a magical enabler. um, and when you think about a conversation, this is where people get like kind of hung up on um, how they're going to write, how they're going to do a video, how they need to have it all perfect and professional. And it's been my experience when people focus really heavily on being professional, and saying exactly the right things and making it perfect and polished, that it starts to become stilted. No longer feels like part of a conversation, and it takes on this other form. It's not as accessible, it's not as interesting, not as easy to understand in a lot of cases, especially if your idea of professional is about using big words to try to impress people. And it's not that I'm calling out people for doing that. I find myself falling into that trap a lot. I've got a lot of perfectionist, I want to get an A on this essay kind of thing going on personally, so I get it. But when we think about it as a conversation, all of a sudden it becomes a little looser. And I can tell you this, anytime I remember this and I send out a conversational kind of a message to my email list, I tend to get people responding. People will like hit respond and write back to me, um, which is really kind of cool. And when I forget it and we start, going into more of a professional kind of a business correspondence mode, uh, not so much. So personal and conversational. You want to know why storytelling is all of the rage? Why everyone's talking about stories? It's because that's how we talk to our friends. That's how we talk to real people. Is we tell stories. So tell stories. Tell stories. Have characters. You can. You can create characters in your story. You can be. I've seen some people get really quite creative with this kind of thing. But if you would tell a story to a client, or tell a story to somebody at a networking event when you're in a personal conversation with them in a booth having a cup of coffee, bring that into your marketing. The professional thing, if we let go of the trying to be professional and we approach it more like, oh, I'm just gonna send the note, I'm gonna send a little letter, a little email, make a conversational kind of post, let go of that. You can ask questions. You can ask questions. You can send kind of a short message with a question attached to it, and allow people to respond. Like, who knew? Who knew? But you can do this sort of thing. if you look at that as a kind of a back and forth, you can, for example, if you have an email list and you send out a note with, just a simple question, you can get a whole bunch of responses back as people respond to it. Because like there's not a lot to read, there's just a question, and they respond back. So there's space for doing these sorts of things in your marketing. Uh, and you don't have to say everything at once. This is kind of cool too. If you look at like a conversation, it's kind of like scattered all over the place. It's like you're having a conversation and you're putting out these little conversational snips. It's like, oh, here's an email, here's a social media post, here's an article, here's a video, here's a presentation, here's a quote that I found is inspiring. It's just little bits of conversation. And you don't have to say it all at once. You don't have to write a 3,000 word article to explain everything in depth. You can just say little bits, and you can leave some space in there for people to ask questions. It doesn't have to be perfectly polished. And this is one of the things I'm learning from George Cow, is that casual content and unpolished content leaves some space for people to engage with you. So you don't have to say everything at once. So smaller chunks of content, you think about it as chunks of conversation. Um, Link them together. This is the key to making this work. It's like, did you like this article? You might like this one too. Do you want to join my email list? Follow me on social media. It's like, here's a way to get more of this conversation. So you can link things together. Technology sort of sense, this is good for your SEO to link your blog posts together. And allow your conversational partner to choose what they want to do next. A lot of technology and a lot of advice is really say like, okay, I want people to do this specific thing. I'm going to make them do it. Technology really likes to work that way, but people don't. So allow them some choice and some options. It's like a choose your own adventure kind of thing. This, by the way, is why we have navigation on a website, so the people who are on your website can say, oh, what do I want to know next? Do I want to know who you work with? Do I want to know who you are? Do I want to know what you offer? The answer to what do you want to look at next is different depending on who the person is on the other end. Some people want to make the personal connection. They want to know about the person who's writing the website, and that's first and foremost. Other people are more interested in, what do you offer for services? I want to know that first before I find out anything about you. And it's like, allow people to choose. What do you want to do next? Make it, this is, in a way, when you're thinking about marketing and publishing stuff online and using technology to facilitate marketing, what you're needing to do is to kind of figure out what do what do what's the other person's role in this conversation? It's like you have to play both parts. I'm going to say this. What do I think they're going to say next? What do I think they're going to ask? What do I think that they want to know? You need to consider both parts. So this is the thing that inspired this presentation more than anything else, is this idea of the single option landing pages that have no navigation. Marketing experts love to push these things. And I don't know about you, but when I've had conversations with real people about this, the response is, these things frustrate me. I'm looking for information and the site won't let me look at the information, or I can't find what I'm looking for. All they want is my email address, and they want to send me something that I may or may not be interested in. This is something that probably works wonderfully for some things. And I'm thinking in particular, kind of almost impulse purchase, digital products, how to solve your problem by buying this $27 thing. I think that this kind of if you're only selling one thing to one audience and it's just one way and there is no personal relationship involved, this is probably an excellent way to do that. If you sell professional services, this is an excellent way to frustrate people and to actually drive them away. And one of the things that I'm looking at in this is that all of the statistics and the justifications for doing this are all based on things like, well, you'll get more email addresses and the people who sign up are more likely to buy and all of that. But what they don't track and what they can't track is who are the people who are turned away from this entirely and get frustrated and pissed off and leave. So if you sell professional services, like it's nuts. Like you think about a dentist, right? I go online, I'm searching for a dentist, and I find a site for a dentist for somebody, a dentist that's in my neighborhood, and I click on it. And the only thing I'm allowed to do on that website is sign up for the guide to shiny, healthy teeth. That's not what I want. Like, I want to know about the dentist. I might want to set up an appointment. Why would they hide that information from me and force me to get something that I don't want? This makes zero sense to me. And probably not the best thing to do if you're selling professional services. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to get the information that they need and to connect with you, to find out what you're selling and to book in on a conversation. That's what you want. So why would you do this if you sell professional services? My advice is you would not. Um, so and all of this comes around to this idea of considering marketing from your future clients' perspectives. Whether you want to sit in their chair or wear their shoes or look at the world from their eyeballs, uh, you need to carry their side of the conversation. So, uh, and whatever you say should be interesting. It's kind of like when you talk to a friend. You want to talk about stuff that's interesting to them. Uh, I talk about different things with my best friend than I do with my dad, for example. It's like I know what my dad is interested in, I know what my best friend is interested in, and it's not the same thing. So I'm considering that conversation from their perspective. We do this naturally when we're talking to people. So your marketing conversation is a specific kind of conversation to have with a specific kind of person. You need to figure out, okay, how do they see this? What would be useful for them? So one of the things you might want to ask is like, what will make this process, this conversation, more enjoyable for them, easier for them to get the information? Um, how do you want them to feel about this interaction that they're having with you? Um, I think when you look at things from this perspective, you can make better choices in terms of the technology. And you can make better choices in terms of what you say and how you say it. Um, you don't want to introduce friction and frustration. You don't want to make it difficult for people. Um, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to get the information that they want, to explain it in a way that they understand, to answer the questions that are top of mind for them. And the last thing you want to do really is to annoy them. I'm thinking about this. I'm going off on a rant on landing pages, and this lands in my email on Monday morning. And I'm like, huh. It's like there's a lot of justification that goes on for doing this kind of thing. Um, uh, we do things that people don't like. We do things that we don't like, and we do them to our future clients, even though they annoy us. Um, and proven to get users' attention. But is that really what we're after here? Do we want them to have a pleasant experience with this? And frankly, a lot of technology and a lot of marketing advice that leverages a lot of technology is kind of comes from this angle of, if you annoy people enough, they might buy from you. And I'm like, you can't annoy people into buying from you. And I'm pretty sure I heard that from somebody. But when I searched it online, nobody even attributed this to Mark Twain, which is really bizarre. So maybe that's an original quote from me. If you've heard it from somebody else, you can let me know. Perhaps Mark Twain said this. But you can't annoy people into buying from you. Have you been annoyed into buying from somebody? Is that how you would choose your next professional service provider? Yes, I want to get into a relationship with you and have you help me with my most vulnerable problems. I'm so glad that you annoyed me into setting up this call. Said no one. So Your permission slip for the day is to be human and to be conversational in your marketing, and to choose your, high tech, low tech, whatever you want to do in terms of tech. But be yourself, be you, U-shaped business. And that's what I have to say for today. There's more things being said at uShapeBusiness.com. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pay attention to the chat that's been blowing up as I've been talking. Would love to hear any. Where's the chat? I can find the chat. Oh wow. Oh, excellent. We've got weather reports coming in. With snowflakes. Hey, I'm north of everybody, and there's no snowflakes here. There is some crunchy, frosty grass, though. Uh, yes. I've surprisingly enough, I have people agreeing here. Marketing runs on words. Yes, marketing runs on words. You said groovy, and that's groovy. Yes. Speaker right to one person is great advice. Helpful to remembering, feels like less pressure already. Absolutely. And you know what? Especially when you think about that one person as being friendly, as being somebody that you like, somebody who wants to hear from you, uh, makes all the difference in the world. Helps to be more your authentic self, like you have a personal friend, a friend-like conversation in email. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, not perfectly polished. Like when you think about it, have you ever been in conversation with somebody? Um, I've experienced this frequently at a networking event where they come in with a very perfectly polished elevator speech kind of thing, and they use it in a conversation. Um, I saw it. I saw somebody do this like at a round table. We had maybe 8 people and we're going around and we're having this conversation. There's lots of words flowing back and forth, conversation, conversation, conversation. And then when it was this person's turn to speak, they elevator pitched at us for, probably exactly 60 seconds. The conversations dropped dead. It was like there was no space for anybody in that. It was like we're all sitting there trying to process the complex words that were in the elevator speech, which is probably really perfect as a paragraph on a website, but in conversation, no, it totally didn't work. So when you think about having conversations with people, creating a video for somebody or writing something on your website, if you can speak in that conversational way, especially things for like social media, where there is the possibility for some interaction, things that are conversational, not fully polished, not perfect words, are more relatable. It's easier for people to engage in the conversation. Sometimes these perfect words actually form a bit of a wall, more so than allowing for some back and forth. Um, Perfectly unpolished. You know what? I once told someone who's thought about doing a workshop called Perfectly Unpolished, and she said, "No, don't do that." Um, I've received that kind of feedback for some of the things that I've thought about doing as well, and I've had feedback sometimes if I share things that are personal, where I've had people say, "You really shouldn't do this. This isn't very professional." And it's just I can't maintain that kind of veneer if I'm actually working with somebody one-on-one, and it's my contention that people ought to know what they're getting into when they work with me. So I'm me. There's not very much difference between talking to me um, in a client conversation as there is me right now talking to you. At least I don't think there is. I mean, certainly my Zoom background looks the same. I look the same. I have the same, I listen more. I'm broadcasting one way, so I listen more. But what you see is what you get. I'm not, not perfectly polished. Yeah, allow them to choose what next. What a concept, right? Like, what a concept. And a suggestion here, what makes it more enjoyable anytime I talk about Jackson or an animal. It's like, yeah, it's like I get a lot of positive feedback when I bring my pets or Joe into the conversation. If I reference them, those seem to be the things that people really like. I don't like doing anything that I don't like having done to me. I think there was like some kind of a golden rule or something about that, wasn't it? When someone is being perfectly polished in conversation, it makes me think that they aren't willing to be their authentic self, and I don't like or trust them. Nicely put. That is my experience as well. I often associate that with they're hiding something. That's me though. And like this is the thing too. People vary, and I gather people do that because it works, and some people that's what they're looking for. I've definitely had people kind of give me helpful advice that they would never work with me because I'm not professional enough, and it's like I'm okay with that. Um, I'm totally okay with that. It's I'm me, and really I'm too old to change. Um, One thing I've noticed the last few months is people doing the get more followers thing. I want ideal clients, not followers. Especially when 99% of those followers wouldn't dream of my services. Here's a pop quiz for you. What would you rather have? An email list with 100 people who could potentially be future clients, or an email list with 10,000 people who would never buy from you? Um, it seems to me like it's a no-brainer thing, but it doesn't impress people to say that you have a list with 100 people on it. It impresses some people that you have a list with 10,000, even though they don't buy anything, even though you pay way more for your email service because of that, and even because it's a little bit daunting to communicate with 10,000 people, especially when you know that most of them have no interest in what you're doing. That is just, to me, kind of a recipe for stress and frustration. So I don't get it. I think an elevator pitch is due to anxiety. You don't over prepare if you're calm and confident. Yeah, I think that that's part of it. I think too that people have been trained into you have to have an elevator pitch and it has to have this specific kind of a format. Um, like there's some training that goes to that. And I think too, for a lot of the people that I work with, when you do things that are hard to explain, if you have a variety of different services that you offer, a variety of different clients that you work with, it can be very, very, very hard um, to summarize that into 10 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever people give you. And so a lot of people put thought and preparation to that in order to kind of get it all out in a chunk of time. And this person that I'm thinking about in at that networking event, I think that that was exactly what was happening. Is that here, the message I got is I worked really hard on coming up with this exact and precise way to describe what I do, and I've memorized it so I can get it all out in a respectful amount of time or something like that. Um, and it doesn't kind of work. One of the things about being in conversation with real live people at an event is that you can pay attention to whether or not they're paying attention to you, and you've got some time and space for some back and forth. Uh, when you talk about what you do, you can be really open-ended and say, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I do this thing, and allow that other person to ask you questions or to be able to dynamically decide what to say based on the conversation that has happened. It's a lot easier to do that in person. um, um, and ultimately, this is what we're trying to do with technology: is to how do we replicate that in person back and forthness with the marketing. And yeah, customized one-to-one services, generic elevator pitch, absolutely. One of the things that we lose, uh, we actually lose clarity and connection when we try and generalize up too much. If you When you're trying to think of what do I say that encompasses every type of client I work with, every kind of problem I might solve, every kind of service that I could offer, when we come up with something that's that general, people can't connect to it because there's nothing in it to kind of hang on to. Um, it starts to sound a little bit like, well, I can help anybody with anything. Like it really kind of boils down to that. And nobody knows an anybody, and nobody knows what an anything is. Whereas when you're super specific and that, and you say that I specialize in treating people's chronic back pain, people know what that means. Like it's precise. It's they might come to mind with somebody that they know who has chronic back pain, and the pushback I get from the people who do this kind of treatments would be like, but I also help with like elbow pain and knee pain and all kinds of pain, right? And which is one of the lovely things about using technology is that you can post some stuff about back pain, and you don't have to make your entire business about back pain. Your business can be really kind of general about the pains that you treat, but you can do individual posts or articles or videos that speak directly to back pain and have a conversation with the back pain people. And then you can create another one for the elbow pain and have a conversation with them. So there's the possibility in the technology, and this is when you think about it as individuals. Oh, I'm going to write a post for this person who asked me about back pain. One post, one problem, one person, and it's great. The other people will tune it out, and that's fine because you can create something else for them. So that's the upside of this. Yeah, it's the entry point to working for you. Exactly. Like this is exactly it. Is especially when we look at social media, content marketing, blog posts, articles, videos, you can have different points of entry, and they all come into conversation with you, and then you can get customized and specific for that individual in terms of what they're needing and what you can do for them. It's almost like it's like an hourglass. Like you can think about it kind of like an hourglass shape, where there's all kinds of different ways to enter different points of conversation publicly. And then the idea is to bring them in, to have a call with you. Ultimately, that's what we want to do, is to let them know that we can help them and have a call with them, figure out exactly what they need, make recommendations. And then, once they're inside like your store, they'll discover that, oh, not only do you help with the back pain, you also do the elbow pain. And when you know it, my cousin has some elbow pain, right? Yay for thinking about an hourglass shape. Yeah, well. Oh, there's another button here, Q&A. How do you build trust if you're not being authentic? Isn't that um, isn't that the question? It's I'll never forget. I had a client who was a coach, and she had had a bad experience working with another marketing advisor who wanted her to do things that weren't authentic, that were pushy, that she felt didn't fit her or her personality or who she was. It was stuff that she was being pressured to do things to people that she didn't want to do, that she didn't feel comfortable with. And she said, I could never figure it out. Coaching is a trust-based business. How can I have a trust-based relationship with people if I start out with hype and with pressure and with being inauthentic? It's a little like I need to behave one way in my sales and marketing to bring them in, so I can behave in a completely different way once I start working with them. And I think what we really, this is really the essence of it. How do we treat people? How do we treat our prospective clients the same way we would treat our actual clients? How do we show up and give them an idea of who we are and how we work? And creates trust. It creates a level of comfort. It's like, oh, hey, having a conversation with you is, you sound like, when I read your emails, I hear your voice, that kind of a thing. When I see you on video, you show up the same way in our actual conversations. Georgie and I have had that feedback from people that when they'll book in with a call with us and be the three of us on the screen, it's just like this. Well, except Georgie's there. But it's just like this, except there's three instead of the two. It's like, the background is the same. We look the same. It's uh, there is this thing. I think it's called Parasocial. I should look it up. Read this a while back. Parasocial relationships or whatever. It's basically um, when you feel like you already have a relationship with somebody, but it's kind of one way. I've had this happen to me. I'll give a presentation, so people in the audience have heard me talk for like an hour, and they feel like they know me. So when they meet me, a year later, they engage me in a conversation like we're old friends because they saw me speak, they've been getting my emails, and they feel like they know me, but I don't know them. It's been one way, but I'm showing up saying stuff. If you're listening in on this, if you're watching this video and we haven't actually talked, you know me better than I know you, which is kind of it's kind of what we're wanting to do with this marketing. It's a little bizarre when you think about it, um, but that's I'm having the one side of the conversation, and it's just like, what can I do to encourage you to have the other side with me, right? So, now we've reached the part where I've run out of things to say. So if you have a question or a comment, now would be the time to type it in quickly to the chat, or I'm going to just say I'll see you next week. And apologies if you happen to be listening in on Facebook and you're not hearing me. So yeah, there's a question about the Content Lab. I'll answer a question about the Content Lab. Content Lab had our very first meeting of the Content Lab yesterday. We had technical difficulties, sent everybody the wrong link. Things went sideways, and it was fine. It'll be fine. People will forgive me because I'm a human being and I'm doing the best I can. Content Lab, if you're interested in it, you can join anytime. It's not you have to start right now. You can join us anytime. It's I got a comment. It was awesome. Learned so much. Excellent. Happy for the feedback. We're doing the very first Thursday meeting tomorrow. I happen to be listening to this right now. You can you can join in. You don't have to start at the beginning. What a concept! Actually, it's really interesting. There is the first session is the start. Like, you do have to do the first one because it's the prep. But after that, it is a stream. Content marketing. This little bits of conversation is an ongoing practice. So in this particular program that I'm running, it's every week. Every week you produce some content, but it's not in a specific order. It is not like you can't fall behind in the class. You can't, you won't miss anything. You don't have to catch up. All you have to do is the first module. Like, you have to do the prep work, and then after that, you show up and you do the thing. So it doesn't matter, if now's a great time for you to join. Yeah, you can join for tomorrow, would be in the very first class. You can also join next week, next month, whenever you're ready for it and can put it onto your schedule. But it's meant to be an ongoing thing. Content marketing is one of the things, it's one of the practices for continuing to promote your business. And you can't fall behind. You never have to worry about catching up. I purposely designed this course to overcome those problems, because this is feedback that I've gotten, is that I can't handle another course. I have so many courses I've signed up for that I haven't done this stuff. This is not about really about learning a lot of new stuff as much as it's about doing stuff. It's a learning by doing. And my intention with this class is that when you leave the class for the week, you check something off your list. You don't leave with a to do, you leave with a to done. And yeah, there's no catching up. It's just miss class, that's fine. Join us for the next one. It's all good. So thank you for offering me that opportunity to insert a bit of a commercial. And that, by the way, is at pattyk.com. All the information. Yes, leaving with it done. It's like, what a concept, right? Check. What about next Wednesday? Next Wednesday, Georgie will be back. It is Georgie's turn to talk, so it will be something. It's going to be a Georgie topic, and you can tell how incredibly organized we are. If you have an idea of what you would like Georgie to talk about, we're all ears. If you have an idea of what you would like Patty to talk about, we are all ears. If there's a specific topic you'd like us to address and we feel like we have something to offer, we would love to make this valuable to you. So you can send us an email, you can chat it to us in one of these sessions. You can leave it in a comment on Facebook and Georgie will find it. And otherwise, it'll be a surprise. It somehow seems that every week we show up here and we have something to say. So it's a conversation. To organize isn't always good. Now you can find something that's relevant to this week. Absolutely. And this is, that allows us to be responsive to people who ask us questions and also to talk about stuff that we feel that feel alive for us, that have some energy to it. This marketing as conversation thing has a lot of energy to it right now. I've got some of this going on with my clients, some specific questions. The fact that cartoon arrived in my email box this week, and it's like, oh, there it is. This is the topic. This is something we need to talk about. And I find that if I plan too far ahead, I might not want to talk about the thing that I said I was going to talk about 2 months ago. Because 2 months from now, Patty, is not today, Patty. We're actually different people. Are you able to let us know the topic a day or two in advance? That is actually one of the things I want to get better at this year. This week for me was incredibly full and I wasn't able to get the topic up on the webpage, but I would. We are working on getting better at putting the announcements out earlier about what we're talking about the day before. Oh, by the way, if you go to uShapeBusiness.com and we have our show there, there's an email form. If you want the reminder about the show, I set that up to automatically send it 15 minutes before the show with the link. So if that's useful to you, you can go and sign up there. And in an ideal world, I would love to have have the next week's topics up on the website. I will endeavor to be better at that. So. Yes, episode 100 isn't far away. Plan on cake to celebrate. Yes, absolutely. Oh, episode 100. Yes, yes. Episode 100. We should do something special for that. I should do the calculations on my fingers to figure out what day it will be. But next week is episode 96. 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. 5 episodes from now. Reminders until going to your class becomes a wonderful habit. Yes, exactly. Exactly. But wouldn't you know it, you know, it's got the technology sorted out. And like part of it's getting the technology sorted out, and part of it is me getting into the habit of keeping things updated, and putting all that stuff together. But thank you. I appreciate the comments in the chat saying that that would be useful to you. Um, that gives me more of an incentive. See, this is a conversation, right? How can I be better and more of service to you? So awesome. Thank you for that. All right. We've come a long way. Yeah, I've come a long way. Maybe one of these. Hey, would this be interesting to you? One of these days, I was thinking actually, I have an archive of all the stuff I've ever taught. And I was thinking, oh, it'd be really kind of cool if I pulled up one of my like super crappy PowerPoint presentations from like 2013 or something like that. I showed a couple of my old slides of it. See, this is where I started. My slides are so much better now. That'd be really fun. Okay. A crappy presentation make me feel good. Excellent. I look at this stuff. I kept it. And I'm like, why do you keep this stuff, Patty? You are never going to use this stuff again. All right. I will. I will reflect on that and come up with a way to make that relevant and encouraging. So for sure. That way I could use some of the stuff I've been hanging out for a long time. Maybe for the 100th episode. Actually, it would probably be a really good thing to address on the 100th episode because and I think it would be helpful probably for us to reflect a little bit on what this has done for us personally because my I would encourage you to do something like this. It doesn't have to be a live show every week, but to develop content on a regular basis because there's a lot of upside to it um, in terms of getting better, improving what you're doing, getting better at communicating it, thinking it through, shaving off kind of the rough edges. It's super helpful for that kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, so if you want to see our crappy presentations, that's wonderful. And thank you for sharing the link in the chat, Susie. You asked for it, and I never went and got it, but yes, there's the link for signing up. Awesome. I will post the link into the Facebook group as well, and get Georgie to put it onto our YouTube channel so that if you want those presentations. Does Georgie have any crappy presentations? I will ask Georgie to come up with crappy presentations. I'm sure she's got something. All right. I'm going to leave you with that. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. I look forward to seeing you next week with Georgie as the co-pilot. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye for now.